Imagine a football club so desperate for money that it sold the ground beneath its own feet. That actually happened to Lincoln City in 1982, and it very nearly ended them. Fast forward to today, and that same stadium is being ripped apart by diggers and cranes, while thousands of fans still pack in every other Saturday to watch it happen live. A club that once couldn't pay its own bills is now pouring £4 million into reshaping Sincil Bank from the ground up, racing against the clock to finish before their first ever championship season kicks off. So how does a club that collapsed into administration and got kicked out of the Football League end up here, right in the middle of its biggest transformation yet? Lincoln City have called Sincil Bank home since 1895, a ground tucked close to the city center that Lincoln Cathedral looms over its rooftops on match day. For over a century, the Imps built their identity here, but the story of this stadium is really a story of survival. In 1982, with the club facing eviction and financial ruin, Lincoln sold the ground itself to the local council for £225,000 just to keep the lights on. It would take nearly 2 decades before then-Chairman John Reams bought it back in 2000 for £175,000, finally returning ownership to the club. That desperation extended onto the pitch as well. In 1987, Lincoln became the first club in English football history to suffer automatic relegation out of the Football League, a record that still stands. They bounced back within a single season, but it proved to be the start of a pattern rather than an isolated setback. In 2002, the club plunged into administration, releasing players just days before a high court hearing that threatened its very existence, and only survived through emergency fundraising and a company voluntary arrangement. 9 years later, in 2011, another relegation dropped Lincoln out of the Football League entirely, beginning a 6-season exile in non-league football. Stadium development during these decades was driven by necessity rather than ambition. The main stand was rebuilt in 1987, but budget constraints meant it opened smaller than originally planned. 8 years later, the Stacey West stand added more capacity, but few of the modern facilities clubs increasingly relied on. For decades, Sincil Bank evolved through piecemeal upgrades instead of a clear, long-term vision. Then, everything changed. The arrival of Danny and Nicky Cowley in 2016 sparked one of English football's greatest turnarounds. Lincoln won the National League title, stunned Premier League side Burnley on a historic run to the FA Cup quarterfinals, and returned to the Football League. The club kept climbing, eventually winning the 2025-26 League One title and securing its first ever promotion to the championship. But success also exposed a new challenge. Built for a club focused on survival, Sincil Bank was no longer suited to Lincoln City's new ambitions. With just over 10,600 seats, it became one of the championship's smallest stadiums, while its aging hospitality areas and matchday facilities generated far less revenue than rival clubs relied on to fund transfers and wages. Every empty executive box and outdated concourse represented income Lincoln simply couldn't afford to leave on the table. Promotion made one thing clear: the stadium had to evolve. Almost as soon as Lincoln secured their place in the championship, talk of redevelopment began gathering momentum among supporters. Then, on February 20th, 2026, the club turned those discussions into reality by unveiling Imps Territory, the most ambitious redevelopment project in Sincil Bank's history. But this wasn't simply about adding a few extra seats. It was a blueprint to turn the stadium into a modern, year-round destination capable of supporting Lincoln City's ambitions. Imps Territory is far more than a simple stadium upgrade. It is a complete transformation of the matchday experience at Sincil Bank. Designed by Polke Collins Associates, with Fitchy Taylor Planning overseeing the planning process, the redevelopment will modernize the stadium while preparing it for the club's future. Once complete, capacity is expected to increase from its current 10,669, driven mainly by a new tier at the South Park end. The South Park end will undergo the most dramatic transformation the ground has seen in 3 decades. A new upper tier will rise in place of the old boxes, and combined with additional seating in the Stacey West stand, the changes are expected to add around 600 seats to Sincil Bank's overall capacity, Elsewhere, the fan village is being uprooted entirely and rebuilt in the southeast corner, paired with a new interactive activity area designed to give younger supporters and families more to engage with before kickoff. 2 permanent big screens will anchor this new space, joined by an additional screen inside the stadium bowl itself, while the entire public address system is being replaced to match the scale of the redevelopment. At the heart of the redevelopment is a brand new hospitality building behind the Rilmac stand. The first floor will feature modern conference, dining, and banqueting facilities with views across the pitch, while the ground floor will include a large covered bar to reduce queues and improve the matchday experience. The existing executive boxes will also be removed and replaced with outdoor seating, giving corporate guests a new open-air viewing experience. The improvements extend across the entire stadium, inside and out. A new slate gray and red color scheme will give Sincil Bank a more modern, unified appearance, while seating in the GreenLink Renewables and Stacy West stands will be replaced and safety barriers redesigned to improve access and sightlines. Beyond football, the stadium is also being transformed into a year-round destination. A new community cafe will open alongside the club shop and ticket office, and a new event space for up to 350 people will allow Sincil Bank to host conferences, private functions, and community events long after match days are over. What makes Imps Territory different is its unified vision. Instead of another piecemeal upgrade, it transforms Sincil Bank into a modern stadium that finally matches Lincoln City's ambitions. Turning Imps Territory from vision to reality was never going to be easy. Sincil Bank is tightly surrounded by homes and city streets, leaving almost no room to expand, forcing Lincoln City to redesign the existing site rather than build outward. So they split it into 3. Rather than gambling everything on one enormous planning application that could stall for a year in committee, the club and Fitcha Taylor Planning broke Imps Territory into 3 separate submissions, each covering a different slice of the redevelopment. That approach paid off, with full planning permission secured in just over 4 months, an almost unheard of pace for a scheme this size inside a conservation-conscious cathedral city. Diggers were on site within weeks of approval. The biggest challenge is keeping Sincil Bank open throughout the redevelopment. With a first-ever championship season approaching, closing the stadium isn't an option. So construction is being carried out in phases around home fixtures, letting supporters keep attending matches while work continues. The relocation of the fan village is a good example of that balancing act. Rather than removing it all at once, the club is carefully rebuilding it in the southeast corner while ensuring matchday facilities remain available throughout the project. It's also worth being honest about what this project isn't. The roughly 600-seat capacity boost is modest next to the 5-figure expansions some championship clubs have chased in recent years, and that's by design rather than by accident. Money tells the real story here. Roughly £4 million has been earmarked to cover the Imps Territory build, transferred into the football club directly from Lincoln City Holdings, the ownership vehicle now controlled by American investor Ron Fowler. Crucially, that funding is arriving as equity investment rather than debt, a deliberate choice for a club that sold its own stadium in 1982 and nearly collapsed into administration twice since, and one that speaks to a very different approach to risk than Lincoln City has been able to afford in the past. The finish line is specific too. Contractors are working toward having the bulk of Imps Territory complete in time for the opening weekend of the 2026-27 season, giving the build a fixed, unmovable deadline rather than a vague promise. That urgency sits against a remarkable year on the pitch, with manager Michael Skubala named League One Manager of the Season as Lincoln stormed to the title and a first-ever championship promotion. Club officials have framed this as bigger than football too, pitching the new community spaces as a benefit for the whole city, not just matchday regulars. So, what do you think? Is this the right redevelopment for Sincil Bank, or should Lincoln City have gone even bigger? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stadium stories like this.